I am excited to welcome this next guest onto the show because she is a Philly girl who is making a name for herself in Hollywood. Jerrie Johnson stars in Prime Video's series Harlem. It's being called a funny and fresh take on the relationships of black women. Four friends dive head on into life after graduating from college, but they soon learn that life doesn't always turn out the way you plan it. And you know, we can all relate to that. She joins me on the show right now. Jerrie, so good to see you.
Hello, hello, hello. It's happy to be
Yo,
here.
you are. Oh man, your role in Harlem is something that people keep talking about. Who is? Explain your character to us, please.
Ty is a tech mogul. She's a go-getter. She is a moneymaker. She has transcended from a lot. She overcame generational trauma and generational poverty. And so she's kind of, because of that, she kind of can be a little one-track minded sometimes, maybe a little too focused on work, but she's trying to, find her footing in love.
And when we think about your character, the backstory is interesting. Ty had a husband. Ty currently dates women. Ty could maybe be pregnant. You know, it's a complex. I'm just saying, it's a complicated character and an interesting storyline. How hard is it to find those types of characters in this business these days?
Oh, it's extremely hard. I mean, the nuance of having a black woman that's in her 30s, that's queer, that has a friend group that's not centered around her queerness, right? Like her queerness is just a thing. And also for her to be a professional, not only a professional, but at the top of her business. And we talk about like tech is such a big thing now. We don't see that many black women at the head of tech companies, but we are coming of an age where like black women are owning their entrepreneurship. And so to see that on screen, I had never read anything like that before. And then the language that she used, it felt like something that was familiar to me. So it was easy to tap into it because the writing was so good, but it also was exciting because I'm like, who's doing stuff like this? Like, where is this being done? And them just being such fly, unapologetic women who like truly love each other, like black female friendships that's not about backstabbing and arguing and all of that. It's rare. And I mean, Tracy had to prove that there was a space for this show by doing Girls Trip and selling out the box office, because she wrote this before she wrote Girls Trip. And she had to, let people know there is a space for black female friendships. People do want to see it. And not only do people want to see it, they need to see it. There's such a need. And the fans' responses shows that there was just such a need for this show.
One of the things you said when you were talking a minute ago, I thought was super interesting. You talked about the character being queer, but her queerness not being the center of the character or of her storyline. There's something super important about that in terms of increasing sort of public understanding of the full humanity, the full life, the full story of LGBTQ folk. Your whole life isn't bound up in who you're sleeping with or who you love or who you desire. How important or how do you see that role and your platform in general as needing to sort of improve and help us rethink queer identity?
Well, I think there's a large community of people who don't ever have to encounter people like me, whether that's being a black person, whether that's being a woman, whether that's being a queer person, like just a large group of people who can or who have set their life up, right, so that they don't have to encounter people like me, right? But then those are some of the same people who are making rules about the freedoms that I have, the liberties that I
Yes.
have. And so it's important for me to one, play this role, but also to use my platform to talk about that, to talk about like how why I talk about authenticity so much is because it is important for me to be my full self and to show what that looks like so that people can have a better understanding of people that they're making rules for or making laws for. And so I think that visibility is so important, but even more so now I know that visibility is so important because I've spoke to so many people who come from different backgrounds, who look completely different, who learned a lot from watching Ty, or who even learned a lot from hearing one of my interviews. Like, I'm always going to be me, you know, I'm always going to live my best wild free life, but there's a reason for that, right? Like, I grew up poor in North Philadelphia, and we didn't have the same luxuries and liberties that I have now. So not only is it important for me to speak freely about who I am, but to also show people where their holes are, because their experiences just don't have the capacity for them to understand, like, what it's like for poor people, right? Like, we can't make laws about people that we've never interacted with. And so yeah, it's important for me to always be looking out for queer folks, looking out for my hood, you know, looking out for women. It's just it's essential, especially now.
Man, you are already on my list of faves. Now you have quickly moved to the top of that list. Hearing you talk like that, yo, I'm so happy. I'm so proud of you. Before you go, there's a writer strike going on right now. I've seen some people run toward it. I've seen some actors run away from it. I've seen some people pretend that they went mute all of a sudden. Where do you stand with things?
Give people their money. Give people their residuals. Pay people. It's like the industry has moved and grown in so many directions, and you expect people to be like, oh yeah, you can grow, but just still pay me the same amount you've been paying me since the 90s. Like, it doesn't
Right.
make sense to me. It's the same with the way people get paid on Broadway. It's like the prices, the housing market in New York has gone crazy, and people are still being paid the same amount that they were being paid in the 80s. But it's that cycle of, because not many people get the opportunity to do it, then you do take the job because that's what's going to give you leverage, that's what's going to give you a voice, that's what's going to get you in the room. But then it's like, but I'm not compensated well enough to only do the job I came here to do. Now I have to compensate myself in other ways, do other jobs,
Exactly.
matrix work, to be able to have a full life, to live a full life. It's not fair. Pay them people.
It is absolutely not fair. Y'all see what North Philly does, man? You get people like Dawn Staley. You get people like Jerry. I mean, this is what we do in North Philly. This is what we make. The best of the best. Yo, we love you. We so proud of you. I can't wait to see how this storyline finishes it this season. But beyond that, I can't wait to see all the amazing things you do in your career, because you are extraordinary. We love you, and thank you for hanging out with us today.